Imagine for a second it's the year 2050. And Michigan has transformed in ways that might even surprise the most seasoned residents. Michigan has always been a state of reinvention. Will it be the next big economic powerhouse, or will it be all swimming in melted ice? Will Detroit finally become the tech hub it's been promising, or will it be overrun by self-driving cars stuck in traffic? Stick around and find out. The next 25 years are going to be a wild ride in Michigan, and it only seems fitting to break down expert projections, forecasts, and real data to break down Michigan's future population trends, economy, climate, real estate market, transportation, and culture. Hold on to your Coney dogs and Verners, friends, because this is going to surprise you a little bit. Starting off with the population aspect, because it tends to be a hot topic of discussion here in Michigan. Michigan's population is changing, but not necessarily growing. According to the University of Michigan's research seminar in quantitative economics, Michigan's population is projected to peak around 2046 at 10.54 million people before declining to 9.9 million by 2050. This drop is largely due to the low birth rates and aging residents. To create even more perspective on that, we have the aging boomer generation, and by 2050, over 30% of Michigan's population will be over the age of 65. This means fewer working-age adults, potential labor shortages, and increased demand for healthcare services. With labor shortages forecasted to be on the rise, there's expected to be an influx of immigration from other countries to fill those labor positions that we will be desperately in need to fill. Then, with natural disasters and climate issues hitting several states across the country, Michigan is seen as a climate haven, which I talk more in depth about in a video I'll link in the description. According to geopolitical strategist Parag Khanna, probably just butchered that name, Michigan could gain population from climate refugees, or people fleeing hurricanes, wildfires, droughts in the south and west. The economic landscape is set to evolve dramatically, as you could imagine anywhere would in a 25-year chunk of time, most likely. While manufacturing remains a cornerstone to Michigan's economy, there's a notable shift towards professional and technical services too. Projections indicate that employment in these sectors could grow substantially, adding over 50,000 jobs statewide by 2050. However, it's not all smooth sailing, though. The faster adoption of electric vehicles presents both opportunities and challenges. If Michigan maintains its market share, the transition could increase employment, but on the other hand, losing ground in this sector might lead to job reduction. It's a classic case of innovate or evaporate. And with the EV mandate lightening up as of recent, and Michigan's economy diversifying their industries, it will be interesting to see what Michigan's drive will be 25 years from now, as the state has been neck deep in manufacturing for decades and decades. The Brookings Institution predicts that by 2050, over 40% of manufacturing jobs could be completely automated. But this also means new jobs in software engineering, robotics, and AI, and then there's also the tech and green energy growth aspect. Michigan is investing heavily in wind, solar, and nuclear energy. Could we become the green tech hub of the Midwest? I don't know, but we should probably trademark that ASAP. According to the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, clean energy jobs in Michigan are expected to grow by 8% annually, outpacing all the other industries. Speaking of green, I wanted to take a deeper dive into climate and environmental changes too, because climate change is making its mark on the Great Lakes state. Over the past century, Michigan has warmed up by 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit, leading to more frequent severe storms and reduced ice cover on the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes Integrated Sciences and Assessments Project warns that Michigan will experience 20 to 30% more rainfall in spring and fall. leading to more frequent flooding in cities like Grand Rapids and Detroit. As far as reduced ice coverage, the Great Lakes are expected to have 30 to 40% less ice cover, which could increase shoreline erosion and damage infrastructure. Looking ahead, residents might experience hotter summers and milder winters with an increase in extremely hot days. While this could mean more beach days, it also raises concerns about public health and agriculture too. On the flip side, a longer growing season might benefit certain crops too. Is it time to consider that backyard vineyard you always wanted, Michigan friends? Could be, maybe. I've seen this firsthand too, and I'm sure a lot of Michiganders have too. For several years, the inland lakes couldn't freeze long enough to ice fish or ice skate because it was in a constant freeze and thaw situation. Switching gears to real estate, housing, and the cost of living, we know housing markets make quite the transformation, not just year to year, but lately it seems like it's month to month and day to day. During the pandemic, for example, the housing market did a 360 backflip, front flip, and we are still feeling the effects of that market all these years later. Michigan's housing market will look a lot different in 2050. The question is, will we still be one of the most affordable states, or will prices explode? Urban centers like Detroit and Grand Rapids may see increased demand, leading to rising property values. Meanwhile, rural areas could experience population declines, impacting housing demand. Sustainable and energy efficient homes are definitely going to be becoming more of the norm, with green building practices truly leading the way. So if you're planning to build your dream home, think of solar panels and rainwater harvesting systems. Mother Nature will thank you, and I talk about that a lot more in my Living Off the Grid video that I will link in the description too. If we infuse the housing market with Michigan's projection of being a climate haven, as I mentioned before, experts predict home prices in major cities could rise by 30 to 50%. The Michigan Association of Realtors predicts home prices in Metro Detroit will increase by 4 to 6% annually, meaning a $300K home today could be worth over $800K by 2050. Another thing to think about is the future of Michigan's infrastructure and transportation. Maybe we will have floating cars so we don't have to worry about the potholes anymore, or the orange barrel construction seasons. We can only hope, of course. By 2050, Michigan's infrastructure will have received a futuristic facelift, hopefully. High-speed rail networks might connect major cities, reducing reliance on personal vehicles. Michigan has debated connecting Detroit to Chicago via high-speed rail for decades. By 2050, could it finally happen? Public transit systems are expected to expand, offering efficient alternatives to driving. The rise of electric vehicles has led to a proliferation of charging stations, making range anxiety a thing of the past. Experts at MIT predict 60 to 80% of vehicles on the road will be autonomous by 2050. Do we believe this? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. When we talk about infrastructure and transportation, a lot of that is determined by where the political landscape is. And I'm not talking about picking one candidate on that side of the track versus one on the other side. I just mean where the mentality will be 25 years from now. As Michigan changes, so will its politics. Experts predict older voters, different priorities. Michigan's population will be older, meaning policies around healthcare, retirement benefits, and infrastructure for aging communities will take center stage. The climate refugee effect. According to governing.com, states like Michigan could see an influx of climate migrants, like I've said, which may shift political priorities toward housing development, environmental policies, and infrastructure expansion too. And then you have urban versus rural divide. Cities like Detroit, Grand Rapids, and Ann Arbor will continue growing, while rural areas may lose population and political influence. Expect ongoing debates about resource distribution and infrastructure investment, to say the least. And then we have renewable energy versus traditional industry. With billions being invested in clean energy, will Michigan move away from its fossil fuel past? Policy decisions in the next 20 years will be huge in shaping Michigan's economy. And I'm curious what everyone has to say about this point. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. With all of this evolution forecasted to happen, where does that leave sports and culture? By 2050, Michigan's sports scene may see some exciting changes with advancements in technology and training. Perhaps the Detroit Lions will have finally clinched a Super Bowl victory. Hey, we're so close. I will put money on 2025 to 2026 for them. People are saying esports could rival traditional sports in popularity, with arenas packed for virtual competitions. And with the state's diverse population, Michigan's cultural festivals will offer rich experiences and the development of more diversified state traditions too, making every weekend an opportunity to explore a new corner of the world right in your backyard. As we look ahead to 2050, one thing is clear: Michigan is going to look a whole lot different. Whether it's for the better or worse depends on how we adapt to the changes coming our way. Our population is shifting with an aging demographic, but the potential for new residents seeking a climate haven too. The economy is evolving with AI, automation, and renewable energy reshaping the job market. The housing market might boom in urban areas while rural communities face challenges. Meanwhile, our infrastructure will finally get the upgrades we've been promised, but only if we prioritize smart investments, of course. The Great Lakes will continue to be Michigan's greatest asset, but they could also become one of its biggest political battlegrounds as other states look for water resources. And while self-driving cars and green energy might define Michigan's new industries, will they solve our biggest problems or just introduce new ones? It's hard to say right now, but what do you think Michigan will look like in 2050? Will we be a tech-driven, climate-friendly powerhouse, or are we in for some serious growing pains? Drop your predictions in the comments below. If you want to be a part of Michigan's future, I help people all over the world move to, within, and out of the state of Michigan, and I love it. So if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to be your go-to resource. Till next time.